Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show. Happy Monday. Happy Makeover Monday. I'm here live at the farm with Rachel Manallis. She's here this whole week. We're scheming up plans for the farm this summer. Excited. Welcome, Rachel. And what an interview yesterday. If anybody caught our Really Sleepin' Sunday interview with Harley Flanagan from the Cro-Mags, that was, what do you think, Kaustubha?
What do I think? I mean, I think it's always nice to reconnect with an old friend like that. And, Harley is, he is himself, it's like...
We somehow got I think we went into rated R yesterday. Went from PG-13 to R yesterday on a few of the F-bombs that got dropped. So forgive us because we don't usually go there. If you do know who Harley was, because a lot of you guys have filtered in here through the music scene that my band was a part of, and Kaustubha was from that scene. So if you came that way, you know who he is, and you know he was an influencer before there was a word called influencer at a very young age. But if you didn't know that, and I know we have a lot of regular listeners that have no idea what hardcore music is or punk music is, and for them, I felt like, oh my God, are they getting any of this? Are they getting when he talks about walking down the street with a big padlock in his hand? Like, what does Nancy Rothman think of that? Like, I'm looking at all the Zoom faces. What does Chapu think about that? Right? I was thinking, oh my God, how am I going to explain this to them later? But yes, that is where we were born out of. We were born out of that scene, and therefore we have a gratitude toward that scene. And one of the beautiful things in retrospect, I think, is because whatever our conditioning was, there was no sage, sadhu, or swami that could have got through our heads. Like, God sent these people to us, Kaustubha. They tagged these people to speak to us, and you can see. I mean, me and you are so grateful for them in our lives today.
Yeah, it's like for those that don't know, Harley, he really had no father. His father was in and out of jail when he was a kid. His mother was, let's just say, not the most responsible parent in the world, right?
Yeah.
She also had, kind of so his whole upbringing, and then he was raised, in a really tough ghetto and on the Lower East Side of New York, getting beat up every day. So it's just like, you have to understand the person and what they went through. I think the people that are familiar with his whole background, it makes more sense. People that don't understand that may be like, well, why are we even going into this? But that's what he came through, and so has been for him a life of a lot of well, he even said it, very honestly. He said, my life, there's been a lot of abuse, there's been a lot of violence, and to this day, it's something that's still not. It's like PTSD, it's like you're trying to get over it. But I know Harley on different levels. I know that surface level of just him just trying to survive the world in which he was brought up in. And I also know that, and I think it also came out too, that very sweet person that's underneath it all.
It was very emotional. There was a lot of times I felt like he was just going to break down.
Yeah, and so and you know, and that's part of his honesty too. So you know, to this day, I have love for Harley. You know, I always will. You know, gratitude and love, and so you know, I think you know, if you were unfamiliar with him or you're wondering, you know, where this is all coming from, then maybe that'll give it a little bit more context.
Sure. But anyway, check out that show, yesterday's Sunday interview with Harley Flanagan. It's up wherever you see. Yeah, you know where to get us. But by the way, if you do watch on YouTube, you got to like and you got to subscribe and you got to leave a little comment. It makes a difference.
All right.
Okay. Are you ready for your morning nugget, sir?
Yes.
All right. Here's your nugget. And it's a poem, so I'll read it poetically.
Oh, who's it from?
This is from Margaret Atwood.
Okay.
You may know her. It's called The Moment. The moment
is this
when.
going to be a dramatic reading?
It's a dramatic reading, yes.
Okay.
The moment when, after many years of hard work and a long voyage, you stand in the center of your room, house, half acre, square mile, island, country, knowing at last how you got there and say, I own this, right? The moment where you stand in that place and say, I own this, is the same moment when the trees unloose their soft arms from around you, the birds take back their language, the cliffs fissure and collapse, the air moves back from you like a wave and you can't breathe. No, they whisper, you own nothing. You are a visitor, time after time, climbing the hill, planting the flag, proclaiming, we never belonged to you. You never found us. It was always the other way around. Boom!
Mic drop. Boom.
Isn't that great?
You liked it, huh?
Yeah. You know, I'm just doing a lot of like reflecting lately. It's like, we own nothing. And, you know, on our spiritual path, you know, we get to this point sometimes where we're like, I'm sick of alcohol. I'm not going to drink alcohol anymore. Alcohol's ruined my life. Or I'm sick of drugs. I'm sick of, you know, illicit behavior. And I'm going to give up this. We go through this point of giving up and renouncing these things that are killing us. But then these things, like we think, well, what's so wrong about, oh, I planted this tree in the ground, or this is my home where I raised my family. So the material world demands of us that we give up the things that we hate, and then we give up the things that we even love and cherish, because in actuality, we are not owners of anything. And when we actually get that, it's actually quite liberating. Then we can just feel free to love what's around us without trying to possess everything.
Boom. Thank you for that purport, Raghunath. You're right. The way that this plays out, the way that she wrote it is that she's saying, as soon as you begin to identify this is mine, then she talks about how, like, they're all nature, the things of nature that she says withdraw from you, right? The trees, the birds, the cliffs, even air itself, right? And you know, the way that I understand that is like, it's, in other words, we either fight against nature, and you know, or in a sense, like in a poetic sense, we signal to nature that nature should withdraw from us, right? Where we kind of become at odds with nature. When we try to, when we think of ourselves as owners of anything, we're placing ourselves at odds with nature, and it will rebel by the force of time. And everything that we're standing on, and even everything that we're breathing, we're going to feel like it pulled in. And in this way, we'll understand you don't own anything, right? When you're sitting there trying to pull some breath into your lungs and you can't, and you're about to die, at that moment you realize I don't own anything. But if you realize it without having to get there, then you can move through this world so much more smoothly. And even though material challenges are there, you don't feel like you're battling with nature ever. You know, you're free.
You know, it also brought up these things like, everything I love, I want to possess. Everything I see of beauty, I want to possess as well. You see a flower, you pluck the flower and it's dead. You know, or even just the changing of you see flowers and it's almost broken. It's heartbreaking to know they're going to wilt soon. Like they're not going to last. The peonies are not going to last. The rhododendrons are not going to last. They're up now, but they're not going to last. Or then you get to this next level, which is a little twist of crazy, where people like, oh, look at how beautiful that zebra is. I'm going to kill it. I'm going to kill it and skin it and use it for a rug. Look how beautiful that leopard is. I'm going to stuff it. Right. And it's like, there's like, you want to possess their beauty, but once you do, their beauty is almost lost as well. Like you can't have it. Like it says, the trees unloose their soft arms from around you. You want to appreciate nature by capturing it, by taking a bird from the sky, clipping its tail feathers and like locking it in a cage. And now I keep it in my kitchen. It's so crazy.
Yeah. And I think also the point that you were making, like, is it so bad that I feel like this is my home? This is my house. I did work for it, apparently, didn't I?
I raised my kids here. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I loved here.
Yeah.
I cried here.
Is it wrong for me to think that these are my kids? And as we were discussing last week, and I imagine our verses will be continuing with this theme, there's two levels that we can perceive reality on, right? Simultaneously. And one is that, yes, this is my home. I must maintain it. That's my duty temporarily. Right. These are my kids. I must maintain them. I must care for them temporarily, but then there's that absolute level in which one has to be thinking, they're not mine. This isn't mine. This is just the role that I'm playing right now. And I won't be playing in the future. Time will separate me from this. It's not mine. And that realization is, again, it's not like it's super sinful or evil to think this is my home or these are my kids, but it's a level of depth that doesn't allow one to begin to go to really connect with their root, to really connect with God, to experience spirituality on a much deeper level. And that requires absolute, to reach that absolute platform. Nothing is mine, right? I haven't created anything. What is this? What is my house and the property that it sits on? Even my children, their bodies, what to speak of their very souls. None of it is my energy. I didn't create any of it. It's just energy so like in that poem where at the end it says, no, they whisper, you own nothing. You were a visitor time after time, climbing a hill, planting a flag. Oh, where it says, you never found us. It was always the other way around, right? It's like, this is someone else's energy coming across my path. Whose energy? It's Krishna's energy. And this is where it starts to get really deeper. Therefore, Krishna is, because it's his energy, he's the one that is what's the word I'm looking for? Not qualified, but who has the rights to enjoy it, right? It's like I can't walk onto Raghunath's property and just start doing whatever I want.
You can.
Okay, but in one sense, he owns it, Ultimately, Krishna owns everything. It's all his energy. Therefore, he's the Purusha. He's the enjoyer, And there's, when one begins to try to understand this, that actually even my own body belongs to him, right? Even my soul, my very self belongs to him. From a mundane platform, it looks like, what is it, slavery? What are we talking about? But actually, it's the deepest level of truth that everything belongs to me, including me, my body, my words, my mind, my everything. That's when you get to that level. That's deep spirituality. It's and until you can kind of wrestle off the conditioning that's making us defend our plot. Whether that plot be like a plot of land or my own body even, or my own mind. Until we let go of all that, we don't get to those really deeper levels of spirituality. But all the great mystics speak like that,
Yeah, and we're in a practice of it right now. We are practicing for it, and we actually have to let go of everything. And we could tease out this poem for the entire show because it's so good. But I was thinking, like, these social orders are made for this. Like you become a sadhu to practice giving stuff up. Right. But at the same time, the real sannyas, as taught in the Bhagavad Gita, the real sannyas is not just to walk away, although that can be part of it. Walk away from your stuff. If there is still attachment in the heart, like I'm walking away from any social responsibilities, but I'm proud of it, or I like the position, or now people give me respect, or now I have disciples, or then that's a problem. It's not actually sannyas. Sannyas can be done for even a householder, but it's still that deep realization that we have to understand. Everybody's got to take that test. You know what I mean? We can't just, now I'm a sannyasi, now I passed the test. No, now the test begins. Or I'm a grihasta, now I'm having my dharmic life. We're always going to get that test. We always have to opt in towards our spiritual life at every moment. And the big part is to understand, how can I love in this world without being a possessor of things?
Boom. Oh, there you go. Mara, note that one down. What was that? The big question? Is that what you called it?
The big
test? What did you say?
I don't know. I can't remember what I
said.
Away. God said it through my body.
but you know, the point you're really on today, right now, because the point that you just made, in other words, even if one is pious, you know, and dharmic, still, like someone may say, well, but my children, my family, my home, isn't that? Can't we like limit to what I own to that, and can't I have that abhiman, or like that mentality that this is mine? But really, no, all of that is there for actually to train you to let go, right? It's like the reason that you have the kids is so that like I let go of my own independent ideas and I give up my selfishness and I serve them, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately knowing that time's even going to take them away. So the sooner that we realize everything's going to be taken away, I'm going to be revealed as the non-owner. We can realize that right now and become free and not suffer. Otherwise, time's going to come along and teach us the lesson, and, you know, again and again and again until we finally learn it.
Yeah. So it's one of these things we voluntarily, lovingly accept that I can't possess, or cruel material nature just chops at us. You own nothing. You own nothing. And we've all experienced, and I can see faces on the screen right now watching on Zoom where I know like they went through a hard time. I remember when they told me, man, I'm going through this loss, going through this heartbreak, going through this financial devastation, going through this bankruptcy, going through the loss of a child. And it's either the time factor or just cruel elements of material nature that just sort of like strip us of everything that we thought was ours.
It's like
Good morning. Happy Monday. You're going to lose everything.
Okay, Raghunath. I think now is the time we start to move over to the announcements.
Oh, man, we didn't even get to announcements. Sweet baby Krishna, that's happening tonight, 7:00 at Gopal Chandra's house.
Nice.
And we have Bhakti recovery group meetings today at 1 and 9:30.
Okay, great. You ready, Raghu?
Yes. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very source of our conquests, I want you to offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloki Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome in the heart become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Agyanat Tamarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Oh my God. Did you know, Mark, the same author?
Second squirrel.
But this is relevant. It's a relevant squirrel. Margaret Atwood also wrote The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
You know that?
Mm-hmm.
That is one of those very creepy Krishna conscious dystopian futuristic books. It's one of those Krishna conscious books without Krishna in it. You know what I'm talking about? Like that movie was so Krishna conscious, but like Krishna was not involved in it. Yeah. All right. Reading for, where are we, Mara?
Reading from Canto 4, Chapter 11, Text 30.
Text 30.
Wait a second. Can't chapter 11?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got to get back on it. Text 30. Here we go.
Who's speaking?
Who's speaking? Swayambhuva Manu?
That's right.
All right, I'm on it.
Speaking
Thus
to?
regaining your natural position and rendering service unto the Supreme Lord, who is the all-powerful reservoir of all pleasure and who lives in all living entities as the supersoul. You will very soon forget the illusory understanding of I and my.
There you go.
We just said that. We just said that.
Yeah.
That's a Krishna miracle right there.
Well,
I still
not exactly.
I still get people writing me Krishna miracle things practically every day. I just had this Krishna miracle, Raghu. It's a mystical world, Kaustubha.
It really is. Of course, I knew that verse was coming, so I chose the nugget.
Oh, really? Okay.
You see, that's where you have to be careful. Not everything is a Krishna miracle like that, right? You see.
Yeah.
You got to dig a little deeper sometimes.
You're a little magician, aren't you?
Yeah. But so last week we ended by hearing about Swayambhuva Manu was telling Dhruva, he said, turn your attention towards the Supreme Person. And when you do that, you'll find that all the material differentiation becomes merely flickering, right? When we connect to that original source, when we turn back, and he used the term, he said, from your original position, right? So let's again, there's a message here, there's a formula here, that I'm playing temporary roles in a temporary world, but I have an eternal connection to my source. And when I turn my attention to that source, all that's going on in the temporary realm, I see it as it is. I see it as flickering. I see, it's problematic one moment, and then the next it's, so they say when we speak of samadvam, this even-mindedness, that one doesn't become too elated or too distressed, depending on what's happening externally. And it's because I realize, hey, if something's going great right now, that's great, that's fine. But I know it's going to change, right? And if things aren't so great right now, well, I know that's going to change too. But because I'm connected, because I've faced that absolute from my original position, I'm connecting in that way. Beyond my temporary roles, beyond my identification with my temporary roles, then I see this world for what it is. And so he continues that message in this verse, text 30. Another really nice word. Thus regaining your natural position. Das anudas, right? I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, and rendering service unto the Lord, who is the all-powerful, this is significant, right? Who is the all-powerful reservoir of all pleasure. Right? The pleasure is not coming from the temporary thing. The real pleasure is not coming from the temporary things. It's coming from that original source. And he lives in all living entities as the super soul. You will very soon forget the illusory understanding of I and mine. This is my house. These are my kids. This is my wife. This, you let it all go.
All right, text 31. My dear king, just consider what I have said to you, which will act as a medicinal treatment upon disease. Love that analogy. Control your anger, for anger is the foremost enemy of the path of spiritual realization. Right? Because anger is born out of desires, right? I wish you all good fortune. Please follow my instructions. A person who desires liberation from this material world should not fall under the control of anger, because when bewildered by anger, one becomes a source of dread for all others. Oh, yeah.
That's interesting, right?
It's like you're not angry alone. You don't live in a snow globe. You affect everybody around you. You're like vibrations bursting outward. It has a ripple effect. You're creating your family. I'm creating my family by my anger or by my love. I'm everything we're doing is having many, many secondary, third, fourth effects on everybody around us.
It's a great point, because usually when we're angry, we feel justified in that anger. Right. Well, there's a good reason for it. Okay, but where is it leading? Is it helping anything, or are you simply becoming a source of dread for others? And is that what you want in life?
Right.
I think especially people that you get put in a position of responsibility, and you find justification for anger like left and right. And, you know, even good intentioned people just become the dread of everyone, right? And nobody wants to be known that way or thought of that way, but it can happen easily. But what was the medicine, he said? Remember in the previous verse?
I thought it was in the instructions, no?
Yeah, he said, just consider what I've said to you, right? Just
Which
consider.
as a medicinal treatment upon disease.
Yeah, which means, in other words, reflect upon Shastric instruction, right? Reflect
It seems
upon
like
it.
this
That's the
whole
medicine.
thing is about reflection, stepping back,
Yeah.
taking a breath, zooming out, and see the bigger picture, see the backstory. Like when you hear you heard of it, like Harley yesterday. We talked about, he was violent, and then you hear his backstory, what his childhood was like, and how he'd get beat up on the way to school every day by gangs. When he was like, imagine that at 8 years old, going through that every day. My little Waldorf kids who went to Waldorf school, they have no idea what poor Harley went through. They're like so protected. They lived such a protected life. But, there's a backstory and it affects us. And when we can stop being so reactionary and just step back and see, look, this person has a backstory that I just don't get. It assists us in our own personal evolution. Otherwise, what is there? He's acting like this. I'm going to act like that.
And
It's just acting impulsively. And it's like it perpetuates it. And it's like real low animal behavior, sometimes below animal behavior. Sometimes animals are more rational.
Nice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. 32?
33. My dear Dhruva, you thought that.
Oh yeah, we did. Okay, I'm sorry. 33. Yeah.
My dear Dhruva, you thought that the Yaksha killed your brother, and therefore you have killed a great number of them. But by this action, you have agitated the mind of Lord Shiva's brother Kubera, who is the treasure of the demigods. Please note that your actions have been very disrespectful to Kubera and Lord Shiva. Never good.
So another element gets brought in, right? Even though in one sense your action was justified, in another sense, who's tied to the, there's always a network, right? And who are you affecting with your anger and with your response? Oh, by the way, you're affecting someone, a really important, special person. Maybe you ought to go and talk to them.
And for this reason, my son, you should immediately pacify Kuvera with gentle words and prayers, and thus his wrath may not affect our family. Interesting. You can get a wrath of a demigod affecting your family lineage. What?
Well, when you start wiping out their descendants, that can happen.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay. For this reason, my son, you should immediately pass. Okay. Thus, Swayambhuva Manu, after instruction to Dhruva Maharaj, his grandson, received respectful obeisances from him. Then Lord Manu and the great sages went back to their respective homes.
Okay.
Wait, who's higher? Manu? Oh, Swayambhuva.
Manu is the grandfather.
Manu is Swayambhuva. Okay. He's the grandfather of Dhruva. Got it.
So,
like, who's higher, Swayambhuva or Manu?
So, imagine Dhruva in a rage, right? His brother was killed. He's fighting back. They're throwing all kinds of mystic crap at him. He's fighting it all off. He's feeling very justified in what he's done. And then grandfather Manu comes along, right? Along with a bunch of sages, right? And they're all there to correct you. They're all there to tell you what you're doing is wrong, And it's hard, it's generally for us, it's hard to accept good instruction. And we'll hang on to whether our justification has any merit or not. Generally, we cling to it tightly. But Dhruva wasn't like that. He said, okay, I hear what you're, I respect you, so I'm hearing what you say. And now he's like, and I got to apologize for this? Yeah, actually you should.
Yes, you do.
So now he's going to go and so he's speaking to one sage now in the form of Swayambhuva Manu. Now he's going to go see another sage in the form of Kuvera, the god of wealth.
Now it gets glorious.
So we start a new chapter.
Called Dhruva Maharaj Goes Back to Godhead. Isn't it amazing when a devotee leaves his body? Everybody benefits that's witnessing. Everybody, like they leave, their life is auspicious and they leave this body in an auspicious way. Right?
It's the final instruction, right?
The final instruction. And that doesn't mean we're not sad, but we also feel a great joy. And the person leaving feels a great, and doesn't mean they're not saying, okay, I'm letting go, but there's a great joy as well. It's quite amazing, actually, because usually when you think of death, if I'd say, if we walk in the forest, you see a dead animal or you see a dead body, it's sort of like it reeks of a horror movie or an inauspiciousness or what happened. But for a devotee, it's sort of like you reflect on their life, and their life is transcendental, and they're got Krishna's name on their tongue, and they're surrounded by love, and it's a quite noble way to leave this world.
Although Dhruva, he doesn't leave the world that way. Like, his death will be different. It's not really even a death.
It's a spaceship.
He just steps on the spaceship and goes.
All right, we can talk about UFOs in this chapter.
But there's still a lot of great instruction first that's coming through Kuvera now.
Okay, so Kubera is he's one of the high level managers of the material universe.
High echelon.
Higher, yeah. Okay, text 1. The great sage Maitreya said, Vidura, my dear Vidura, Dhruva Maharaj's anger subsided, and he completely ceased killing yakshas. When Kubera, the most blessed master of the treasury, I wonder what that means.
Yeah, what does it
mean? What does he do? He's actually, there's a treasures of the demigods.
Somehow there's a treasury, yeah.
And he keeps tallies of the treasures. Okay, we're a little low on. And what is a treasure to a demigod? Is it gold? Are there other types of metals or jewels we don't know about?
We got to look into that.
Paper notes, right?
Yeah.
What is
I don't think it's paper notes.
I don't think they use paper. That fiat currency. They use the real stuff, the real metals. Anyway, imagine getting a coin from the demigods. There must exist.
All we know is he's playing a very high level role in terms of treasury, right?
Yes. The master of treasury, Kubera, said, "O sinless son of a Kshatriya, I am very glad to know that under the instruction of your grandfather, you have given up your enmity. Although it was very difficult to avoid, I'm very pleased with you."
Now look at that, right? Even in that, it's like he was just wiping out Kuvera's kind of his descendants, I guess.
His people, basically.
His people. And but he refers to him, oh sinless son of a Kshatriya.
He could have been like, "Hey, you jerk.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?"
Rank.
He could have pulled rank. He could have done this whole thing like, there should be justice for you. You should go down. Let's all, put Dhruva on. But instead, he had this he weighed out the justice and mercy scale.
Mm-hmm.
So he said,
and he judged him not on what he did, but he gave him credit for stopping. Right. So he said, you stopped this. Thank you. I'm very pleased with you.
We live in a culture now. We just want to hang everybody. Hang them without a trial. It's become quite a mob scene, hasn't it?
There's no chance to, one statement, my guru told me this. He said Prabhupada used to, because, look at what Prabhupada's position was. He was leading this worldwide global movement, which was a branch of an ancient tradition. And he was transplanting it in a world where people knew nothing about it. And the people that were interested in it were coming from these wild hippie backgrounds and so on, with and it was an entirely volunteer operation. He's got thousands of volunteers that are just coming, all kinds of people, and he's got to give them responsibility, and many times they screw up.
Yeah.
And when you screw up, then people their enmity develops, and people that feeling of tear them down, right the wrong, kill the wrongdoer, all that.
Let them hate them. They were never sincere.
Yeah. So, but what my guru said was, what Prabhupada said, he mentioned this formula. He said, do not remove, but improve.
Ooh, I like that one. That's a t-shirt.
Well,
Prabhupada was great with just whipping off these t-shirts, these mugs. Do not remove, improve.
So, but in order to have that, we need to have, within our communities, there needs to be trust, there needs to be patience, there needs to be that, well, like you're saying, the opposite of what you're saying, that willingness to assume that someone has good intentions, right? And if we treat people with that, it brings it out in them, but otherwise, if we don't, it just brings out the battle, and we just fight with one another. So Kuvera says, you gave up your animosity, even, it may have been justified, but you gave up your enmity, which is a very difficult thing to do, right? And I'm really pleased with you. So he didn't judge him on what he did wrong. He judged him on what he did right. And he expressed his how he was pleased with that, and in that sense, you reinforce the good behavior, right?
Yes.
If you just solely focus on the negative behavior, you just create an awkwardness or tension in the relationship.
Yeah, try that in parenting. See how good that works. Focusing on the child's bad behavior. It doesn't work well.
He focused on the good.
See the good. That's your message today, Mara. See the good, Mara.
Thanks, Prabhu.
She's unaffected. All right.
She's like, yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
Got that. All right.
Thank you, man.
Text
3.
Actually, you have not killed the Yakshas, nor have they killed your brother. For the ultimate cause of generation and annihilation is the eternal time feature of the Supreme Lord.
Now, that's another hard thing to do, right?
Right? You got to zoom out. You got to see, you know what? Guess who killed you? Nobody. Just the time factor is killing everybody. It's plowing through everybody. Get rid of time. We're living forever.
So that's, and again, that's like a tricky thing. A lot of people are going to have trouble hearing that. Like, no, don't we have to hold people responsible for what they did? And it was dealt with, right? It was dealt with. Swayambhuva came down, stopped him, dealt with it, instructed him. An apology had to be made, right? And like things are done. But in a sense, from Kuvera's position, he's saying, you know what I'm going to do? From a really mature platform, I'm going to zoom out and say that, this is all part of God's plan. And I'm not holding you responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always death that right? It's not always like on that level of like, death, but like in everything that we go through in life, to be able to try to see it that way. Oh, this happened. I can blame someone. I can get angry, or I can understand that ultimately God's spinning that wheel behind everything.
That's a nice way to put it. Okay. Text 4, misidentification of oneself and others as I and you on the basis of bodily concept of life is a product of ignorance. I and you. This is
really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. This bodily concept is the cause of repeated birth and death, and it makes us go on continuously in material existence. Valuable, secretive information here that we might have gone through lifetimes and lifetimes and never heard this. And now hearing it, can we apply it?
It's so important, right? Okay. Misidentification of others, of oneself and others is I and you on the basis of the bodily concept of life is a product of ignorance. Dhruva was saying, I'm Dhruva and these are the Yakshas, right? The bodily concept is the cause of repeated birth and death. In other words, until I learn this lesson, I come back to try to learn it again. I come back to try to learn it again. I come back to try to learn it again. And it makes us go on continuously in material existence. Let's read the commentary to this, Raghunath.
Sure. Text 4 commentary. The concept of I and you, ahamtvam, as separate from each other, is due to our forgetfulness of our eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Okay, so even right there, right? Just like there's a connection between us. If I'm not recognizing that, I'm out of touch. It's due to my forgetting that there's a root. Just like a plant, you got two leaves on a tree. If those two trees don't see their connection, if those two leaves don't see their connection, right? We're all connected on this tree and fed by the root. Then if one leaf attacks another, it's actually harming itself, right? And if one leaf doesn't recognize its connection with another, it's in ignorance. So how are we all tied together? We're all tied by that original root of all existence, the mula, right? The root, which is Krishna. And we're all nourished by that same source. And, we're all related in that way. Please continue.
Thank you. The Supreme Person, Krishna, is the central point, and all of us are his parts and parcels, just as hands and legs are part and parcels of the entire body. When we actually come to this understanding of being eternally related to the Supreme Lord, this distinction, which is based on the bodily concept of life, cannot exist. The same example can be cited herewith. The hand is the hand and the leg is the leg. But when both of them engage in the service of the whole body, there's no such distinction as hands and legs, for all of them belong to the whole body. And all the parts working together constitute the whole body. Similarly, when the living entities are in Krishna consciousness, there's no distinction as I and you, because everyone is engaged in the service of the Lord. Since the Lord is absolute, the services are also absolute, even though the hand is working one way and the leg is working another way. Since the purpose is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are all one. This is not to be confused with the statement by the Mayavadi philosopher that everything is one. Real knowledge is that the hand is a hand and the leg is the leg, the body is the body, yet altogether they are one. As nice, meaning they're retaining their individuality, right?
Yeah.
You don't lose that individuality. As soon as the living entity thinks that he is independent, his conditional material existence begins, right? It's all about me. I'm the center.
I'm not.
What do I
to
need?
Yeah.
I got to take care of myself. I need to put up my parameters, my boundaries. I'm going to nurture myself. No, we're into self-care, but I'm joking here. The concept of independent existence is therefore like a dream. Independent existence is like a dream. One has to be in Krishna consciousness, his original position. Then he can be freed from material bondage. We're part of something bigger.
Yeah, that's right. If a leaf thinks I'm independent, it's an illusion, right?
Right.
It's connected to a twig, which is connected to a branch, which is connected to a trunk, which is connected to a root, which is maintaining it, right? It does not exist on its own. If we think that we're not, if we think that we're in any less way dependent on the root, then we're an illusion. And Prabhupada says, therefore, it's like a dream, you know. So it's just, this is just key, you know, information in life, you know, like it's kind of like we keep coming back to learn this lesson, right? We want to be independent. It's due to our desire for independence that we're existing within this realm. And then we all are put in these different groups, right? Whether that group is a family, whether that group is a nation, you know, and we have to learn, we have to develop humility and tolerance, you know, like by being put in these groups, we're meant to learn tolerance. We're meant to learn humility. And when we don't, we just become a mess, right? Like everything becomes a mess and we're just all embarrassed. So it's like, imagine if two legs of the same body decided they want to go in two different directions, you know, everything's just a mess. And so, you know, it's kind of like, even like what Harley was saying yesterday, well, as soon as you got groups of people, like, you know, I just can't relate to it anymore. Yeah, it's very challenging to work together as a group. You know, there's going to be flaws. There's going to be tensions. There's going to be issues. There's going to be egos, and we're somehow through that we're meant to learn lessons, right? Like, not that we run away.
Makes you really want to isolate sometimes.
It makes you want to isolate, yeah. But are we meant to isolate?
This person burnt me, and this person let me down, and this person's a total liar, and this person's nuts. I'm just going to isolate. But that's never the answer either, is it?
I mean, it may be temporary. Like sometimes you need to get away, you know. But ultimately, we have to learn the lessons, right? Yeah.
Should I go on with this purport?
I think you finished it.
Oh yeah. Duh.
Text number 5.
Text number 5. Come on, computer. Okay, sorry. My dear Dhruva, come forward. May the Lord always grace you with good fortune. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond our sensory perception, is the supersoul of all living entities, and thus all entities are one without distinction. Therefore, begin rendering service unto the transcendental form of the Lord, who is the ultimate shelter of all living entities.
So that's how we're all tied together, right? Each and every living being made of the same energy, and each and every living being connected through the Paramatma.
Text 6. Engage yourself fully, therefore, in the devotional service of the Lord, for only he can deliver us from this entanglement of materialistic existence. Although the Lord is attached to his material potency, he is aloof from her activities. Everything in this material world is happening by the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So behind every, engage yourself fully, therefore, in the devotional service of the Lord. Why? Because he's the root, right? Like water the root.
Once you study this stuff, the whole material world is like, what was I doing in the material world?
It's, in one sense, it's all simple, right? But we just have these simple lessons that we need to learn. And as soon as we learn them, our heart opens up and we can begin to experience what true love is and be happy. But we're hanging on to things, aren't we? Right? It's hard. It's hard for us to let them go.
This is like a big medicine here. It's like big horse pill we got to swallow.
Yeah.
But you can't argue with it. My dear Dhruva Maharaj, son of Maharaj Uttanapad, we have heard that you are constantly engaged in transcendental loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is also known for his lotus navel. Right? Lord Vishnu has a lotus in his navel. You are therefore worthy to take all benedictions from us. Please, therefore, ask without hesitation whatever benediction you want from me.
Okay, that's a setup there, right?
Yeah.
In other words, we've seen earlier in the story, Dhruva was searching for a benediction, right? Then when he was a boy, he wanted a kingdom greater than his father's, and he realized how unsatisfying that was, right? When he got it, he realized I was hoping for the wrong benediction. So now he's got a second chance to get a benediction. What's he going to ask for?
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
The great Saint Maitreya continued. My dear Vidura, when thus asked to accept a benediction from Kubera, the Yaksharaj, the king of the Yakshas, Dhruva Maharaj, that most elevated pure devotee, who was an intelligent and thoughtful king, begged that he might have unflinching faith in remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For thus a person can cross over the ocean of nescience very easily, although it is very difficult for others to cross. Amazing. You're with Kubera, the treasurer of the demigods. He's in charge of all the wealth of the universe. Mara, how would I react if Kubera came to me and said,
Treasure.
Raghunath, I'm the treasurer of the demigods. Ask for a benediction. What would I say?
Ask for some treasures.
I want to dig in my backyard and hit a crate. This is your fantasy.
I want to hit a trunk with a padlock on it.
Gemstones, perhaps gold.
Golden
Lapis lazuli.
Moonstone.
So in one sense, it's a reoccurring event in the Bhagavatam, right? It's a reoccurring theme where some great soul connected to Lord Vishnu, or some devotee of Lord Vishnu, lives through a challenge, succeeds, kind of steps up in that challenge, and then is offered benediction. It happens again and again and again in the Bhagavatam. And we see the same answer there every time, right? Ultimately, I don't want anything material. Those things don't lead to happiness. What the Vedas taught about finding material happiness, that's one thing, but it's a much lower level. It doesn't lead to true happiness, right? Even escape from the sufferings of this world that you can find through Jnana Yoga, or, letting go of one of all material's desires. It's a noble thing, but still, the Dharma of the Vedas, the moksha of, the liberation in the Upanishads. Bhagavatam saying there's something beyond that, and we're going to give you the same message again and again and again by showing you a great soul is offered everything. What do they ask for? And so what Dhruva says here is so important here, right? What did he ask for again? he might have unflinching faith in and remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And with that, I don't need anything else.
Good answer, Dhruva. Good answer.
Good answer.
Good answer. Good answer. Oh, the son of Idavita. That's a good name. Idavita. Imagine getting that name, Mara. Your name is Idavita. What? The son of Idavita, Lord Kubera, was very pleased, and happily he gave Dhruva Maharaj the benediction he wanted. Thereafter, he disappeared from Dhruva's presence, and Dhruva Maharaj returned to his capital city.
Maybe we ought to end there today.
But yeah, it's 6:57. Wow.
Takeaways?
It was a fun class today.
It was.
A little poetry. I think we need more poetry for you, Raghunath. You read it so well.
Thank you. Thank you. I like dramatic readings. I can do that.
All right. Takeaways. The material world demands that we give up everything.
It does.
We are not owners of anything.
We're not.
Love
No.
everything around us, but don't try to possess it.
That's a nice message. That was Raghu right there.
Yeah. Understand our body, words, and mind belong to Krishna.
My body belongs to Krishna.
What about your words and mine?
We have to opt into our spiritual life at every moment.
Opt in,
Okay.
accept the terms and agreement. Terms and what is that? Accept the
terms and
terms.
agreements, I think. Yeah. When we think of ourselves as the owner, we're at odds with nature.
Mm-hmm.
How can I love in this world without trying to possess?
I think that was Raghunath's deep.
Mm,
nugget right there.
I got deep today.
he did. We cling to our justification tightly with or without merit.
Mhm.
We cling to our justification.
Raghunath.
Do not remove, but improve.
There
Like
you
it.
go.
Like it.
That's
If I ever
Yeah,
get too crazy on y'all, you got to be like, you know what? I feel like removing them, but let's just improve them. Don't remove me, please. I'm asking you both.
we would never remove you, Raghunath.
Never. If we aren't recognizing the connection between us, we're forgetting divinity.
Mm-hmm.
And see the good.
See the good.
It's as simple
See
as
the
that.
And
good.
more poetry for Raghu.
Find the
There you go.
treasures. Find the treasures. Be careful what you ask Kubera for. You might get it and cheat yourself out of the highest thing. Thanks for everybody joining us on this Monday. Little Karuna, she's been dancing around in a sari for the entire show. She's like putting on a performance, if you can see.
It's not a sorry. It's just like a towel she's saying or something. Right? What
It's
is
something. It's something. Anyway, thanks for joining us, Sweet Baby Krishnas,
towel?
tonight. If you want to join us on Sweet Baby Krishna, join us on Patreon, patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. We're going to be trying to get in as many as we can this week. What a great way to start your Monday morning, hearing spiritual sound. Also, you gotta share this with friends. This stuff is meant to be shared. Can't be misers of this spiritual information. There's someone like right around the corner from you that needs it even more than you do. You might be like, this is pretty good, but there's someone like who's desperate, and this type of information can save person's hearts. So share this. You can take a little screenshot, send it to a friend, or send a link to the podcast to a friend, and that's how this stuff goes viral. Follow us on Instagram at Wisdom of the Sages, or at Raghunath Yogi, or at Kaustubha. What are you, Kaustubha Das?
Just Kaustubha. On Instagram, you're
Kaustubha.
saying?
Yeah.
Just Kaustubha.
Kaustubha. And I had another announcement there. I'm going to Atlanta and Indiana and Nashville. I hope to connect with a bunch of people. I'm looking forward to it. For now, we will sing and dance.